Kylie. I promoted her to panelist. There she is. Kylie, I saw that you raised your hand. I'm assuming you want to be a panelist, so I moved you over.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Well, it's 10 past 10. Why don't we start the meeting and hope Liz joins? Although, yeah, right. Okay. Although, if Liz is not present, then any action we accept, does that mean it has to go on the action calendar for council because we don't have unanimity on the CIO committee?
That is a really good question, Eric. I'll have to check with Molly. I'm not sure if it is a majority of the members of the committee or the majority of the members present.
Right.
So I'll have to check with her on that and keep you updated.
Hi, folks. Cassie Coleman,
Oh,
Assistant.
hi, Cassie. I didn't see you. Hi, Cassie. To say today.
If we have a quorum, the committee can take whatever actions the committee is empowered to take. Does that answer your question, Councilmember Filseth?
Yep.
Great.
So the circumstances here, let me just say a couple things and ask Greg.
Chair Filseth, yeah. May I suggest that we start with roll call?
That's a good idea.
Thank you.
Would the clerk call the roll, please?
Yes, sir. Councilmember Cormack.
Present.
Mayor Filseth.
Councilmember Filseth is here.
Oh, I don't know why I keep calling you the mayor. I haven't transitioned yet to 2020. Councilmember Filseth.
Here.
I apologize. Thank you. And Chair Ness. 2 present.
I do not like being. I reject the term of being called a female horse, but okay. So let's see. We have one item on our agenda this morning. I guess do we have to call for public speakers? We probably should. Are there any members of the public who would like to address the CIO committee on a topic not on the agenda this morning?
If you'd like to speak on an item, please raise your hand in Zoom or press *9 on your phone. I don't see anybody wanting to speak today.
So then can we proceed to the action item?
Yes.
Okay. So the place we are in this process is that we have received 6 responses to the RFP, but unfortunately 4 of them do not contain sufficient detail on the item of disclosure of previous or pending litigation to meet the city standard. And so the choice we have before us is to either proceed with 2 and select from within the 2 responses that we got that actually did meet the standard for disclosure of litigation, or else to modify our request and our criteria for exactly how much litigation disclosure we need and reissue the RFP. As part of that process, if we were to do that, then management partners would call the 6 and sort of ask, why didn't you do this? Was it too onerous, too strict? Is there some big issue with that kind of stuff? So that's the choice we have before us. Greg, did I phrase that accurately? Do you want to chime in on that at all?
Thank you very much, Chair Filsett, Acting Chair Filsett, and Council Member Cormack. Correct. I think your summary was spot on. We were pleased with 6 proposals. I will highlight that none of the submitted proposals contained all of the information the city asked for in the RFP, but only 4 of them had the litigation disclosure defects. As we tried to probe why this might have occurred, we think it's due to the short time frame to submit proposals for what is a fairly unique array of services. The COVID-19 pandemic had just exploded nationally prior to the RFP process, so that could have had some impacts. And on the litigation disclosure issues in particular, there may have been some requirements that are standard and typical for California firms, but when you look at national proposers, that it may have been more challenging to scan litigation in Alabama and Florida as well as California. So we've been working with the city attorney's office, and I would just, and certainly Ms. Coleman can speak for the attorney as well, but it's both management partners and the attorney's office recommendation as reflected in the memo, that we think a competitive process is preferred rather than just going forward with 2. So that is our recommendation to you as a committee. And the council would have to take action following your review to reject all of the proposals, which then allows us to go back forward. We could also highlight here, Councilman Filsett, just the schedule, which for the audience members, I will share on the screen. Looking ahead, this would be the revised schedule that next week at its regularly scheduled council meeting, the council would consider rejecting all proposals and assuming they concur with staff as well as the committee's recommendation, if that is indeed your action, then we would reissue the RFP post haste. Both our office and the attorney's office have already started drafting some of the cleanups that we think could cure some of the issues that some of the proposers might have had. And we will confirm that after the committee's meetings today by phone calls to these 6 proposers saying, assuming the committee acts, that the committee is recommending to the council that we reject all proposals. Here's why, here's the information or questions we have for you, just so we are able to quickly reissue the RFP. And then the schedule is pretty much the same that we had before, that the council previously approved, that we'd be asking you to approve. It would just be shifted back basically 4 to 6 weeks. I did want to highlight that it would, under an aggressive schedule, we'd be requesting the committee to meet in what is typically your July recess. So we did want to get committee feedback on whether the meetings on the 21st and 28th are viable for the committee. And then if so, is the council willing to meet on the 29th, which is the week before their first regularly scheduled meeting? Or would they want to do the city clerk has recommended doing the interviews maybe earlier in the day of the regularly scheduled council meeting? So that would be another way to preserve that first meeting in August date. So I just highlight that for subsequent committee discussion. I also want to apologize, back up on background, the second paragraph, that was May 4th, 2020, not May 4th, 2017. I did want to just highlight that for the record. So that concludes staff presentation.
So let us then go and to the public, if there are any members of the public who would like to comment on this item.
If you would like to speak on this agenda item, please press *9 on your phone or raise your hand in the Zoom app. I do not see that anybody is wishing to speak.
Okay. Then we will return to the CAO committee for comments, questions, and motions. Councilmember Cormack.
Thank you. Thank you. I didn't ask to be recognized since there's only one of me. I figured it was my turn. I want to start by thanking Councilmember Filsett for continuing to be the ad hoc subcommittee on this, and for providing the information, which I reviewed. I also want to say that, it's possible that, the RFP, we made a mistake because we were trying to move fast. And sometimes when you move fast, things don't work well. But I'm glad that we tried. I'm glad we made the effort. This is an unusual thing, and we're learning. I feel like everything we're doing in the city now is an iterative process, much like the budget. So I'm not concerned about the fact that it didn't go as well as we expected. I was delighted there were 6 proposals. Am I correct that the proposals were not actually scored? Okay. So they were brought in, and then after review, it was determined that there was no need to score them because, okay, that's helpful. Thank you. And then the 2 that were responsive were also missing information. Is that helpful in terms of thinking about how we might modify the RFP going forward?
It is our plan to contact those 2 firms as well and discuss with them where we thought their proposals may be viewed as lacking some information that would be helpful for the city's review, but they weren't as clearly non-responsive as the litigation testing was. So we do plan to contact all 6, both out of equity and also just to help us make the RFP even better.
Do better the second time. Sounds good. And then we hit the timeline, and I think the timeline is something that it's a little hard to figure out what the right answer is right now. Hopefully, in the event that Councilmember Phil Seth and I are agreed on the motion on June 1st, that could go on consent. Glad to hear that our management partners and our attorney's office are already working on the modifications. In the event that we are still operating under the governor's rules for permitting this sort of meeting, I don't see any issue for me, for example, with the July meetings. In the event that that's shifted and we're elsewhere, it's a little harder for me to predict if I'm somewhere else, if I'll even be in a place that I would be able to provide the address, et cetera, all of that in time to meet the Brown Act. So a little concerned about those July dates. Again, if we're operating under this format, there's no concern. And I don't know that we can answer for our fellow council members as to whether or not July 29th would work. I think, traditionally it's not just for us, it's for staff that there's a break, and God knows everyone needs one if we're able to get one. So, I think just looking at it now, it would make a little bit more sense in terms of shifting to the full council interviewing on a date where we already are expected to be back and working. So that would suggest the July 29th date is the only one that might shift. So I think the 21st and the 28th are certainly doable. We'll just have to be a little bit flexible, and I'm certainly willing to commit to do that. So yes, go ahead, Mr. Larson.
And in response to your comment, that is the July scheduling flexibility is part of why we're recommending just underneath the schedule. And I will share this for the public again, just in case they don't have it in front of them, that this schedule be established by the committee. So your chair has the flexibility to modify that schedule if need be, rather than it being cast in stone by council action.
I concur with that. That seems reasonable given the situation we're in, where it's hard to predict where people will be in a few months. Hopefully we can locate the chair to make those decisions. If not, I'm sure Councilmember Phil Seth as assistant chair, or I don't know if that's a word, acting chair, can be there. So unless there is something that I have missed, Councilmember Phil Seth, I'm looking for, no, then I'm happy to move approval of the recommendation that all proposals be rejected and the request for proposals be released again pursuant to the tentative new schedule that will result in contract approval by the end of August.
Is there a second? I will second. Care to speak further to your motion, Councilmember Clement?
No, I believe that I have. I think this is the appropriate next step, and I appreciate the work that has gone into it.
Okay, super. I'll speak briefly to my second, which is other than noting that quote rework is evil unquote. I'm loath to proceed with just two proposals. I think this is a very important function of the city. It's going to be something that, you know, we're talking about a time frame on years here of this engagement, and I think it's important we do a good job. And so, so I'm going to support the strategy that we seek to have, you know, a reasonable number of proposals from which to choose. I was pleased with 6. I'm disappointed that several of them don't meet the standard, but if that can be ameliorated by this, I think it's a worthwhile investment of our time. On the schedule, I like the way that this is structured here. I think if I understand this correctly, what we'll do is we'll establish the schedule. The council will presumably approve it, and then the clerk's office can figure out where everybody's going to be over the summertime and see if it needs to be modified or not. And I think that makes a lot of sense. So with that, all in favor? Could the clerk conduct the vote?
I'm happy to. When I call your name, please say yay or nay. Councilor McCormick?
Yay.
Wait a second. Before we do that, do we need to make a recommendation as part of this motion whether this goes on consent or action?
Let's see if Ms. Coleman can reappear and let us know.
I think that's a good idea to include it in the action.
All right, then let me amend my, thank you, Ms. Coleman. Let me amend my motion to state that the rejection of these proposals go on the City Council agenda of June 1st in the consent calendar section.
And I accept the amendment. And I think that's reasonable. I think, you know, if people disagree, we can pull it off and discuss it.
Exactly.
Great, I've added that to the motion. Thank you.
Shall I vote again now that we've amended it?
Probably.
Councilmember
Yay.
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 Member Filseth.
Yes.
Motion passes 2-0 with Councilmember Niss absent.
Okay. That concludes the formal agenda for this meeting. Unless there are no other, I want to thank everybody very much for doing this. Thanks to the legal staff. Thanks to management partners. I realize this is sort of a little bit of a hair-tearing exercise to do this, so I appreciate everybody's forbearance on this. Are there any other comments or questions for this meeting? In that
I think
case,
the only thing I'll say is this is the shortest Zoom meeting I've been on since this all started. So we have that, we can appreciate that.
in that case, let's adjourn. Thank you very much.